Good morning, everyone. It's Monday, November 16th. From the San Antonio Express News, my name is Luis Vasquez, and this is your Express Briefing. All of the stories you need to know to start your day. You can expect sunny skies and a high of 75 degrees in San Antonio today. If you're thinking about getting your car washed, go for it. We're not expecting rain this week. Did someone order more 3-day weekends? A state lawmaker is hoping to give Texans a day off after Super Bowl Sunday. We have what you need to know about the bill at expressnews.com. Yesterday was a day for San Antonians to proudly show their colors and bask in the glow of presidential election victory, even though they didn't agree on who won. And now let's move on to the top stories for the day. For Lee Willis, general manager of the North Park Lexus dealership, 2020 has been a good year. Even better than last year, pandemic be darned. Despite closing down the showroom in March and April, sales at the luxury car dealership, which have been red hot in recent months, will top last year's totals, Willis said. The dealership sales mirror a national trend. New luxury SUVs and trucks are flying off car lots. Sales of lower-priced car models and used vehicles, however, have stalled out. Diego Mendoza Moyer explains how this is a sign of the so-called K-shaped economic recovery. For the first time in 100 years, Zapata County cast most of its votes for a Republican president. With a population of 14,100, 95% Hispanic, this rural county along the Texas-Mexico border has long been a stronghold for Democrats. There isn't even a registered Republican Party here. But it gave Trump a win this election with 52.5% of the 3,852 votes cast. 4 years ago, only 33% of voters picked Trump over Hillary Clinton. Though the majority of Latinos in Texas and across the country still voted for President-elect Joe Biden, Trump's gains along the state's 1,200-mile border with Mexico set off alarms for Democrats intent on flipping Texas from red to blue. Sylvia Foster-Frau has more in her latest article. As President-elect Joe Biden navigates a rocky transition, Democratic power brokers and policy experts in San Antonio are working behind the scenes to shape the incoming administration. Biden has named 2 local policy experts to his transition team. 2 other longtime Biden allies in San Antonio are said to be jockeying for positions in the new administration. And the Biden-Harris team has sought advice from veteran Democratic lawmakers on how to negotiate with Senate Republicans to advance the president-elect's agenda. Read Joshua Fechter's latest story to find out which demographic the Biden team is particularly aiming to include in the incoming administration. For months, San Antonio has experienced something of a reprieve from the coronavirus. But as winter approaches, San Antonio health experts warn that coronavirus transmission is likely to significantly worsen over the coming months. A confluence of factors, including increased travel, a series of holidays, cooler weather that forces people indoors, the flu season, widespread misinformation and disinformation could make the virus more difficult to contain and could strain hospital resources. Lauren Karuba talked to public health experts and mathematicians to find out what COVID-19 case numbers could look like in the coming months. From life under the stay-at-home order to the latest developments in testing and treatment, we're covering coronavirus in San Antonio from all angles. We've lifted the paywall on our timeline of events story to provide critical information to our community. Head over to expressnews.com to check out that timeline. Next up are your need-to-know headlines. You can find all of these headlines and more inside your Express News subscription. More than 70,000 people in Bexar County have been infected by the coronavirus since March. San Antonio officials reported 133 new cases Sunday, plus 116 backlogged cases from more than 2 weeks ago. SpaceX lit up the night sky on Sunday as its Crew Dragon spacecraft huffed and puffed its way into space, riding atop the Falcon 9 rocket. With the Crew 1 launch, American regained the capability to regularly launch astronauts from the Florida coast. The San Antonio Housing Trust added another $500,000 to the city's fund, helping families affected by the coronavirus pay for their living expenses, boosting the total to $76.6 million. Funding for the program is expected to last until February. School district leaders are lobbying the Texas Education Agency to continue funding their schools based on enrollment numbers from past years before the COVID-19 pandemic made keeping and counting students an exercise in uncertainty. Governor Greg Abbott has not officially launched his 2022 re-election campaign, but there's already speculation about whether he could maintain an effective presidential bid in 4 years, rumblings that the governor seems happy to encourage. San Antonio parks were the backdrop for 2 large ceremonies Friday, with 240 people from 60 countries taking their oaths of citizenship. Experts believe the Alamo Church may have once been at least partly painted in vivid colors by Native Americans and Spanish artisans, even though the limestone church never was fully completed as designed. Usio Incorporated, a San Antonio-based provider of electronic payment processing services, posted a record quarterly top line for the last 3 months ending on September 30th on increases in prepaid card and credit card processing revenue. A second wave of COVID-19 is crashing across the nation, but news of a vaccine is bringing hope, which means managers should begin thinking about how to resume normal operations next year, writes business columnist Chris Tomlinson. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick says Austin is among the most dangerous cities in the United States. Find out why PolitiFact Texas gives his claim a rating of pants on fire. Texas GOP chair can't tell allies from his adversaries, Gilbert Garcia writes. Allen West has stirred up a remarkable amount of unrest by targeting fellow Republicans who failed to meet his ideological purity test. Read Garcia's full column at expressnews.com. The Express News editorial board writes, some actions of selflessness can still cut through the noise. Alwyn Cash is most deserving of the Medal of Honor. In the world of COVID-19 era college football, Sunday is not for resting but for testing. Take a closer look at how schools incorporate testing, tracing, quarantines, and roster minimums into decisions to play or not play because of the coronavirus. The Spurs are almost never involved in NBA offseason rumors, Mike Finger writes, so imagine then how jarring it must be to hear this month that the tightest-lipped franchise in the league might be talking. Read the latest Spurs column at expressnews.com. This week in history, on November 21st, 1909, the Gunter Hotel opens in San Antonio. Quote, in the Gunter, San Antonio has an establishment that will do much for the city. There's no better stimulant for tourist traffic than a good hotel accommodation, as last year's experience has definitely established, and the Gunter augments this locally in a very effective and extensive manner, according to a report in the San Antonio Express. You can read more about the history of the Gunter Hotel at expressnews.com. When the lights darkened inside of the Big Top, kids cheered and waved flashing light wands around the arena. The light orchestra kicked into high gear, the clown clowned, motorcyclists defied gravity riding around and around inside of the metallic globe of death, and Alexa Vasquez thrilled the crowd with her high-flying act just as members of her family have for 5 decades. A performer since age 15, the 26-year-old started with hula hoops. Now she spins and whirls more than 20 feet in the air, lit by an array of spotlights and flashing strobe lights. Circo Hermanos Vasquez, founded in Mexico City, is celebrating its 50th anniversary of thrilling crowds with performances at Crossroads Mall. Vincent T. Davis has that story at expressnews.com. Perched on a high bluff overlooking wide expanses of wooded Texas hill country, a new home in Cordillera Ranch has taken the classic limestone hill country house and turned it on its head. You can learn more about this home and see pictures at expressnews.com. Playland Downtown is among San Antonio's best pizza restaurants. Find out why our 52 Weeks of Pizza review says it's worth the drive. No matter who the Spurs take with the number 11 pick in Wednesday's draft, that player, like all other 2020 draftees, will face a lightning-fast turnaround to the start of their rookie season. Paul Stephen says he's as guilty as the next cook for adhering to popular marinating knowledge, but a recent deep dive into what's really happening in that liquid has him convinced he's wasting his time in most instances. In a fight that featured more controversy than action, Joshua Franco ended up retaining his WBA superflyweight belt. The San Antonio fighter is still world champion, technically. And that's all for today. This was your Express briefing for Monday, November 16th. My name is Luis Vasquez. Please consider becoming an Express News subscriber to get in-depth coverage on all the stories you heard today. Also, be sure to rate and review this podcast inside of your Apple Podcast app, as it really helps the show. Have a wonderful day, everyone.